Welcome to the Horror Hour.
We all go a little mad sometimes. We get you. The dead follow
Well, welcome to the Horror Hour. My name is Yutaka. I'm not going to go through all our, intro because I'm just really excited because we have one of the executive producers from, if you haven't seen, one of my favorite films already of this year, Terrifier 2. We have Steve Barton here with us. How are you?
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. It's still an interesting processing thing for us when we hear one of our favorite movies of the year out of somebody's mouth.
Well, really?
We had no idea that this movie was going to even remotely be getting the good press that it has been. And it's been such a blessing. And you've been so supportive, and everyone has just been so ridiculously supportive. I mean, it's just this whole thing, it's been like being caught in the craziest, coolest tornado we ever could have imagined, And we're so happy. We broke like 8 rules with this movie, and to see that they're being revered for the exact things that we broke them for, God bless. I mean, again, thank you for having me. It's so my pleasure to be here.
I'm just happy to talk Terrifier 2 with other folks. How
do you think we felt? We couldn't say shit about it for like 3 years, Are we allowed to curse on this show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you fucking can, because
I'm not a fucking sailor.
Let me tell you, I saw everything come out of Fantastic Fest, and it just like I was just foaming at the mouth. I'm like, when are screeners coming? I know I'm already gonna go see it in theaters. It was like, I just need to witness this for myself, because everybody was just saying how, if you love the first one, they just go batshit insane. And the gore, also art has just more charisma than the previous one, which I still love, but I'm just like, I don't know how David does that, but it's to do all of that and still not be verbal. I think that's impressive.
Damien and David have their own language when they're on set together.
Really?
He's like big eyes, big smile. It's really interesting. I mean, to talk about Terrifier 2, we kind of almost got to go back to Terrifier 1. Here was a movie that nobody believed in, but basically the people who worked on it and myself.
Oh, wow.
At that time, I was working at Dread Central. I owned Dread Central. I created that. I'm very proud of all of the work I did at Dread Central. But when it came time for the powers that be that wanted to spin off a DVD label with the Dread Central name, I got saddled with like 300 goddamn movies, and I'm watching all of them, and I hated every one of them, with the exception of one. Okay. And I was like, this is horrible. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't want, because Dread Central was a name and a brand that was me, my company and the people whom I work with. So I wanted us to be well represented. We couldn't jump out of the gate with a stinker,
That's
and out of nowhere, Damien actually emailed me and he's like, hey, can you take a look at this? And it was the original Terrifier, and I watched it, and then it ended, and then I watched it again, and then it ended, and then I watched it one more time. I'm like, this is it. This is the fucking movie that we need to lead with. And I got in touch with the powers that be at that time, and everyone hated the movie. It's not marketable. We already have a killer clown. It was awful. I mean, it got to the point where, I mean, at this point, I was doing Dread Central for 18 years, and it got to the point where the relationship became so contentious that I said to them, listen, if this movie gets released and it doesn't perform like I believe it's going to
Mm-hmm.
have my part of the company, I will quit and walk away. And that's how much I believed in this movie. And I don't really know why. I just did. I had this feeling that this was it. And long story short, Epic Pictures released it under their Dread label, which was
Mm-hmm.
a blessing because they got it on Netflix. And, I don't want to say they dumped it, but they definitely released it to little to no fanfare, you know? And a couple months later, even after the release, I ended up quitting anyway for
Mm-hmm.
reasons, which was very hard. Dread Central was my baby. It was who I was for almost 2 decades. And I was at a convention. It was in Texas. And I was walking around the crowd and I started seeing Terrifier stuff like everywhere. So I called Damien on the phone. I'm like, dude, do we have merch? And he we don't have merch. And I'm like, well, I think we got something here, man, because people are walking around dressing up like Art the Clown, making their own costumes, making their own t-shirts. Fuck, even at that early point, there was an Art the Clown air freshener. What does he smell like,
What?
So bizarre, right? I mean, I know what he smells like. Not pretty, sorry, David. But it was just so odd. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, because there was so little fanfare, it enabled the fans themselves
Mm-hmm.
to find this movie and choose to champion it. I mean, this is as grassroots a phenomenon as you could get. I mean, before we knew what the fuck direction was up, there were murals popping up all over the world. There were people getting tattoos. There were people making their own merch, like hand over fist. And we figured, all right, well, we got something. But the problem with making a sequel to Terrifier is making a sequel to Terrifier.
Yeah, well,
I
I
mean,
mean, yeah, I could see that.
there's a lot of things in that movie that left us with some big ass shoes to fill, clown shoes, pardon the pun. But you know, what the fuck do we do? And Damien got together with, I mean, there are two people. Let me be so honest, that are the heart and soul of this franchise, and that's Damien Leone and Phil Falcone.
Mm-hmm.
These movies do not exist without both of them working together. And they're like the best pairing. And also, George Stuber, who's our cinematographer, has just such the most amazing eye for the camera. And it was all of these people and all of this talent that came together that ended up making like the best 80s movie without trying to make an 80s movie, because people have tried that and failed miserably.
Yeah.
And here was something that felt right and felt genuine. And even better, it was the fans who were saying that, not us. Nobody on our side said, hey, here's your new horror icon. It was people. It's not for us. You can't do that as a filmmaker. You can't say, I'm creating the next horror icon. It's not up to you. It's up to the fans. The fans have to be the one to make that decision. And we said, okay, well, fuck it, Terrifier 2. And at that point, I had left Dread Central. And I said to Damien, dude, I have to be involved in this. I have to. This is, I believe in this movie so much, and what this is to a degree that's ridiculous. And he said, of course, of course you're a part of this. And launched an Indiegogo campaign. We ended up reaching our goal and exceeding our goal in less than 3 hours. You know,
I believe it. I remember.
that was mm, this has been such a this whole journey has been such a what it's been so full of what the fuck moments, right? And we knew we had something, and then of course the plague hit and everything else happened. And you know what? It all ended up working in our favor because it gave us, being that we couldn't really film, it allowed Damien, who does all of the effects in the movie. The movie, you've seen it, is a practical effects extravaganza.
Oh my God,
It,
yes.
it allowed him the time to really go in and create these amazing set pieces, you know, and tweak the effects gag. And he and Phil would spend hours just doing things. And it was everything happened exactly the way it should have, you know? And even though it was a really long, I mean, Damien told everyone the shoot would be 3 months, ended up taking 3 years. But from everyone who worked on it, Mike Levy, Jason Levy, Stephen Delasala, Paul Wiley, who does the music, everybody just really brought their A game no matter how long it took. And again, the fans, man, the fans of the first one, they gave us something so special. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, the way this movie has been championed by just the fans out there, it's beyond all of our wildest dreams. It really is. And I know Damien felt a responsibility to try and give everyone back something that was just as special, you know? And that's why you have this 2.5 hour slasher epic, you know? I mean, it's such a privilege to be able to bring this particular movie out the way it's coming out, because here we are. There's this golden rule apparently that a slasher film cannot be over 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just another rule in the long line of rules that we said, well, we're just gonna do what you want. And that's Damien. Damien sticks to his guns. Damien has a vision that's like laser focused, and he don't give a fuck about rules. He's creating his own rules, and that's why you'll see Art use a gun. You don't see Slam use a gun.
Oh my God, that scene is so good.
I mean, there's like this franchise, and these two little films have broke so many rules that have been well established. And it's I hate to, because there's no way to say it without almost sounding like a douche, but it's really trailblazing stuff, man. And so we did our part, right? We created, well, and again, Damien, Phil, George, all these cats, Scott, Clausen, everyone who just delivered so much to this project. We created this deliriously unhinged sequel, you know?
I mean, unhinged would be the best word to describe it. It
There's not much you could say about it other than it's fucking nuts, right?
it is, like you said, it's hard to do a horror film, especially a slasher, over 2 hours. But as long as you keep that pacing and as long as you keep delivering, which this film does that on every, like, oh my fucking God. By the time it was over, I was upset because I still wanted more. That's how much, like I said, I watched it back to back before I was like, okay, I gotta at least, rest it. But there's just something special. Like the first time I even saw Terrifier, I was like, I don't know who or what they just created, but Art the Clown is fantastic. And I just love it because he doesn't need one, like just the physicality and just all the everything. It was like, this is grindhouse horror. I was like, and this is what I need. And then this sequel, like, damn. I want the soundtrack. The music was just, and then of course we gotta also talk about Lauren Rivera. I mean, that is,
Chef's kiss.
wow, like, holy shit, she just went. I was just like, that's fierce. I was like, oh my God, I was so in love with her. I thought she was amazing.
Casey Hartnett, Kaylee Hyman, Justin Fulham, Lauren Lavera, my God, everybody just again brought their A game, you know? And what Damien was able to do with this, Damien never set out to make a 2.5 hour slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
The runtime had never even come into his mind when he was writing the script. Damien was out to tell his story, you know? And one of the main criticisms of the original Terrifier is there's barely any story there. So Damien was like, hold my beer. And as a result, you know, he took a lot of time to really flesh out these characters and to make you like these characters. And Sarah Voigt, the mom, anyone who's grown up in even a remotely New York family will immediately click with the mom. So every character is so likable. At least we tried. And that's a testament to the actors because the chemistry they were able to build off of each other on screen is what made that movie work on so many levels. Because when it comes time for Art to do his thing, and god damn does he do his thing quite a few times, we wanted you to feel something, you know, we wanted you to be uncomfortable, but we also wanted you to laugh, you know, at the absolute absurdity of it all, because it's absurd, you know. And here's this movie getting released in literally one of the most sensitive times in America's history where everybody's offended by everything.
This is true.
And we
Absolutely.
have audacity to come out with this, which is just this giant fucked up spectacle. And then, God bless you. You want to talk about heroes? Bloody Disgusting, Cinedigm, Screambox, iconic events. They saw something. You know, it almost reminded me of how I felt when I first saw the first one. That Brad Miska especially called me. He's like, Steve, what do we have to do? You know, and it was just so, it was magic, man. It felt like, holy shit, we have partners who actually want to work with us, you know, who understand what this is. But we didn't think by any stretch of the imagination they would deliver over 850 theaters, you know.
I am so like, you know, I live in the Midwest, like middle of the country, and I was not sure if Terrifier 2 would come here. And then it's in multiple locations around me, and I go, I did not expect that. And I mean, tickets are selling. I was like, I need to get mine now. I need to get them for multiple days. I just it's so awesome.
And you know what? And please, anyone that knows me, who really knows me, I'm a very humble guy. Okay, no matter what I've done, I always say it's because of the people I work with, and I mean, you know. And whether it's Terrifier 2 or any other movie, if there's a horror movie in this unique position that we're in, thanks to the tireless work of everyone involved, from the filmmakers to Brad Miska and Bloody and iconic events and Screambox and Cinedigm, any movie given this opportunity, that's a horror movie, because horror is the most disrespected genre in the world. No
You do not have to tell me that. That is so fucking true, and it pisses me off.
Think about this, man. Here's the most exciting thing for all of us. Yes, our movie has a chance to really try to do something, and that's great. But what's really exciting, man, is if this actually works, if people actually show up and they take a chance on an unrated, fucked up, uncompromising horror movie on the big screen, and it even moderately performs well at the box office, we've opened doors, man. That opens the doors for more unrated horror movies to fucking get a chance, to be given the chance they deserve. You know, there are films out there that nobody ever sees, and that sucks because they're really good movies, but they're never given the chance. And I don't know how, knock wood, we got this chance, but we're so grateful for it. We're grateful for everything. And And I mean that from top to bottom, man. We're just all thrilled, shocked, you know? Because the audacity of this fucking movie.
I,
I
look,
mean,
you don't have that opening. I was just like, well, shit, we're getting right into this. I was like, I haven't even like prepared myself. I go, oh, okay. I remember because somebody had told me they'd seen this screener and they're like, dude, this is gnarly. It's nasty. I go, oh, this sounds perfect. He's like, you're not going to want to eat. I go, I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me. So I'm like, you've got me already psyched. And then you guys just go right into it. And I was just like, oh, this movie's for me. This really, and
you know what? You're 100% right. It is for you. And it's for everyone who's ever felt like you or loved this genre or felt underserved or felt left behind, man, because you really don't make movies like this anymore. I mean, they've tried, but this is, I, again, there's no way to talk about it without sounding like such a pompous douchebag, you know? It's such a blessing. That's the only way we could look at it. We never thought that this fucking movie would be bringing people joy. You know, I mean,
that's
Damien
true.
last night. I'm like, are we doing this right? You know,
You guys are, because here's the thing. Um, as you said, horror is the most disrespected genre, and it makes, well, for me, horror is actually my comfort. That's my go-to, you know. And I also think with horror, though, you can explore so many things and still even put out a powerful message, just as, like some Academy Award winning drama, which I would still love. But I just think with horror, there's room to really do something crazy or just fantastical. And again, the journey that you all take us on with this film is just like, I was not expecting at one point in this film to feel like, well, I was so bummed, as you're right, when certain people died, because the actors just did such a good fucking job. And as you said, it is a pitfall of the first one, even though I still love it. Yes, there is no story, like, but it's still a great film to put on if I just want to see some badass carnage, But this one, there's depth, and I was like, I was not expecting that. Okay. And then you gave us some heart. I go, holy shit. And I mean, you guys there are all the makings of what I'm hoping, like, that's why I'm seeing it multiple times. I hope people come out for it. And I hope it just like makes this huge dent to where people like, I mean, I would say independent horror has really thrived this year. There's just so much, but I would love to see the birth of a new franchise. Or I already thought Art was an icon just from the scene that everyone is like, I can't believe they did that. I go, I can't believe they fucking did that. That's impressive.
not only did not only did Damien do it, but he put the camera right fucking there.
Yeah, that was unhinged too. But the thing is, again, my favorite thing, practical effects. Give me all the gore you can. If it's practical effects, I want to see it. And that's on full display. So again, kudos to the entire team. And again, as you said, it's the fans that we just it's so hard to explain. And I do love seeing people dress up as Art, but I can also say I've seen David interact with fans, and as Art, I'm just like, that's awesome. And that, I'm like, that goes a long way.
When David puts on that makeup, and it's funny too, because we were just at the Atlantic City Horror Con, and David was doing an art photo op. And it's so funny because when he puts on that makeup, as soon as the hat goes on and the teeth go in and he picks up the horn, he's a completely different person. The way he moves is different. The way he walks is different. The way he looks at people is completely different. And a lot of people would say that, oh, well, he don't even have to study any lines. Yeah, that's true, but he also has to figure out a way to convey so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Just his eyes, because even when he's getting his ass beat, you don't hear him. You don't hear him groan. You don't hear anything. You don't even hear him breathe. You know, and David has taken this character and he's brought it to such a level, and it's really a testament to his training as an actor,
Mm-hmm.
physical presence. I mean, you if you've seen him out of character, you know that he's like the Damien always says he's like the living embodiment of Roger Rabbit. That's Damien saying that, you know. David is he people, especially kids, little kids, whether he's in the costume or not, they go running up to him, you know, and they're so
I
happy.
love it.
It's amazing. And you know what you see at those conventions, or who these people are. Uh, One of my mentors was George Romero and Sid Haig. And who's luckier than me to have those two cats as mentors, right? And one of the best things about them, and one of the most humbling things about them that I always said was, they never bought into how much of a legend they really were. You know, they would sit with you, they would take their time with you, they would talk to you like anyone else, and they never held themselves above anyone. And Damien is the same guy. You know, he has that same kind of way about him where he's always just so humbled by the fact that somebody digs what he did. And it's like that throughout the entire production team. I mean, we're a family, man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We give each other a hard time, we love each other, we support each other through everything. And we're just so happy that you guys have given us this opportunity to take this ride. We don't exist if it wasn't for you. You know, we really don't. And we're very cognizant of that. And, you know, we could be flipping burgers, you know, but instead, people are opening up their minds and their hearts and letting these sick, twisted fuckers in, who are good hearted people, but sick, twisted fuckers nonetheless.
Yeah, you know.
You know, and you're giving us this opportunity. And we're taking this very seriously, you know, that it's amazing the chance we're being given. And we don't want to fuck up. But you know what? Even if the movie comes out and it doesn't do well at the box office, what a fucking gift. What a chance we've been given. Either way, we got our little fucked up movie in 850 theaters across the United States. And that's a win, no matter how you look at it. You know, just the fact that somebody would even try to take a chance on that, it's a win. And we're so, I can't state it enough how grateful we actually are. We read every review, good or bad. We welcome every bit of criticism. We welcome the good things. We welcome the bad things. Never take it personal. You know, I, it is kind of funny to see people complain about the runtime when they haven't seen the movie.
I don't get
But you know, what's funny is like these are the same people that, you know, they'll binge like 8 episodes of Stranger Things in one sitting. So,
right?
you know, the funniest comment I've heard is somebody called it Terrifier 2.5. I think that's brilliant. You know, I think that's hilarious. But
That's
yeah,
good.
man, you know, it was made with love, and as strange as that sounds, it really was made with love. And
You
Catherine
could tell
Corcoran,
everybody who was performing was having a great fucking time. I mean, like I couldn't even fathom, because I do remember when the Indiegogo, and I was jealous of the people who are like, I think could be victims or whatnot. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, if I could, I would. But I was like,
but
but
we killed them fuckers, didn't we?
yes.
But you know what? I also want to say that we're talking about Terrifier 2, and we should be because it's this movie's time. But I also want to give some respect to Catherine Corcoran and Jenna Cannell and, you know, Samantha Scafidi, who is in the second one as well. You know, if it wasn't for the performances and the risks that these three women took, the original one would not have been anywhere near as good, and it
No.
would have brought us to this point. So if they are watching, don't forget we always love you three, and part of the family, man. It's alumni, it's such a I'm just what can I say, you know?
So as you mentioned, because I have to share, so there is somebody who does crochets like you can horror icons, and I kid you not, I have had this as well. They made art with poopy hands. It's a like I've got several others, like they did a xenomorph, but I was like, would you do Art the Clown? They're like, sure. I was like, perfect. And then she emailed, are you okay with poopy hands? I go, I mean, it's Art the Clown, I hope so. And so I had to show that because yes, no, I am.
Can you bring that a little closer? I want to see his face. Oh, that's amazing. So cool.
Yeah, she did Tales of the Stitch. She does some really amazing stuff. But the thing is, though, as you said, fans are getting either their own merch made, myself included, or people are dressing up. But the first one, like you said, with it, even with its criticisms, it's still just it was a breath of fresh air for me as a horror lover because I wasn't expecting something so brutal and in my face, and I was like, I am ready for more of this because we haven't seen it in a long time.
And maybe,
And
maybe that's a part of it too. Maybe it's because the genre has been so deprived of. I mean, the only films and they're great movies that have come close to being as violent as the Hatchet series.
oh, I love that series. Yes, agreed. We haven't had something that's just so visceral. And
Make no mistake, Adam Green opened up that door. And we're just happy to be in the playground. We're happy to see this type of shit having a resurgence because it has been missing. So maybe now that everybody's so tired of always being offended, maybe Terrifier 2 is that moment where you loosen your belt finally, and just take a ride, man. Have a good time. Yeah, it's fucked up, but you know what? As crazy as those kills are in this movie, and Lord knows they're pretty
yeah.
They're so absurd and over the top that you can't help but smile during them, you know? And you're gonna go, ow, ooh, fuck, right? But eventually you're just gonna laugh because that's the only thing left to do. Because every kill goes 70 steps too far.
Well, and then and again, that goes also to David's performance as art because I just love the facial expressions and those little bits of comedy that you guys might add. I was like, oh my god, this is so demented. And I don't know what theater it was, but they were giving out puke bags, and
yeah,
I'm really hoping that in my screening somebody gets sick. I that's terrible, but I would be like, that's so awesome.
we want the random people that, oh, it's a horror movie, they don't know nothing about it, they go see it, to just be like, what the fuck was that? you know the
Yes.
simple prospect of that happening elates us because if there's always the casual fan that goes to the theater and like, oh, what's this? I'm gonna buy a ticket. Can you imagine not knowing what the fuck you're in for and then that comes on the screen?
Yes.
Crazy, you know?
I
So let me
yes.
ask you this as a fan, because now I'm gonna interview you.
Okay.
I have an 18-year pedigree as a journalist. So did we top the hacksaw scene?
Ooh, okay. Let me think on all the kills and
There
the kills
is
that I
no
love
wrong
them.
answer here. There really isn't, and it's purely subjective. But I'm always interested in what fans have to say when they see the movie.
I really love the hacksaw scene. It was such a good scene, but I would have to say, I was not expecting, and I just what he did, and I feel bad because I can't remember the character's name,
Allie,
but oh man,
bedroom scene.
yes, I was just like, I don't even think I took a breath because my jaw, I was just like frozen because I was like, they can't, no, what? I mean, it is Yeah, I would say that that scene was so brutal. And it was funny because somebody compared it to, I remember, which again, I do love the, I mean, I'm a huge Scream fan, but Scream 4, I remember Olivia's death. They're like, that was so brutal. How could they do that? And and I remember at the time, like, that's really not that bad. But yeah, it's brutal, sure. And I was like, man, I hope they don't ever see this scene because this was whole. You guys took it to another level, and it was, and again, it's just his commitment and when he smiles and the glee and oh my god, that scene is. I don't want to spoil some certain things, but there were just that whole sequence was damn good, and it was, yeah. I again, it's the kills and the characters' performances that have why I've been like, somebody's like, you've already seen it. This I go, look, if the screeners were unlimited, I would have probably be watching it again tonight. That's I think somebody had said in the UK they're getting like a physical release ago, and one of our co-hosts is in two of them actually live in the UK, so and they haven't seen it, and I don't know if Terrifier is their kind of thing. It's mine, like I'm like, this is mine, but I'm like, you need to buy me a DVD and ship it over because I need a copy of that. But yeah, I would have to say that that bedroom scene was, and what's crazy is it's still so early in because there's still so much carnage to go. Like
That's one of the coolest things about it. I mean, there's so much stuff happens in this movie that people forget about what they saw like 10 minutes later because we're already showing them something else that's equally as fucked up, you know? Like if you
I
think about the opening kill, that opening kill is fucked up. But it happens like 2.5 hours ago. And we've already showed you like 19 other fucking things that made you go, what the fuck, you know? And so, but you know what? Again, I'm an old school guy, you know, and I too am big on practical effects. I grew up on Savini. I grew up
yes.
on John Vulich, on John Beekler, all these cats who make these amazing effects and creatures and just these Rob Bottin's work on The Thing and Rick Baker. I mean, all these heroes that we've had in the FX community. And Rob Pendergraft, who did the Hatchet movies, was the only guy to come really close to that level of greatness. And I think Rob Pendergraft is at that level of greatness where his effects are so fucking good and convincing. You look at the effects in Victor Crowley and the Hatchet series.
I can think of one of my favorite, like we did a thing on best kills, and there I already can think of the one scene that in Hatchet that I just thought was so good because not only the sound, but then the skin ripping when he just like grabs. Oh my god, it's perfection. I
Yeah,
love that stuff.
those guys, man, they knocked it out of the park. And I believe in my heart and soul, and I have a 25-year pedigree in this industry and in working in this genre that Damien Leone's effects are on par. You know, I think that because he's the one that does the effects, he knows he has this commitment to showing you everything. Like there's nothing behind the curtain. It's right in your face. And to me, that's so refreshing. I think in another 20 years or so, people are going to be looking at both Rob Pendergraft and Damien Leone in the same way that we revere Savini and Greg Nicotero now. You know, these guys they're on top of their game and they create these amazing, fucked up, wonderfully miserable looking effects that turn our stomachs and delight us at the same time. It's a trip,
Well, I mean, and again, if we're going to talk about set pieces, as you said, Art having a gun, that scene alone, that oh,
It's funny when I
I
was
love that scene.
I was lucky enough to see the original Terrifier with an audience, one of the few times I played with an audience. And the biggest reaction came not from the hacksaw scene, which Don't get me wrong, it had people squirming, but nobody saw him pulling out a gun and shooting her. Nobody.
It still kind of guts me because I'm like, I thought she was the, like, that was such a good twist because I was like, where do we go from here? I was like, that is, and again, I just love the look on his face. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah,
well, that's the thing. When he used that gun, you could see that he was pissed off that he had to use the gun. He was really annoyed, you know? And again, that's another testament to David. And also David has this thing where he's just able to, because Damien asks for what he asks for, and then he just lets David go nuts, you know? So we still cannot believe like the fucking Daisy sunglasses have turned into a meme.
that's my favorite thing.
I mean, it just goes to show you never know, you know? And that was David just fucking around.
It's that scene again. That's what there. You could mention so many things, and then I'm like, oh my god, that scene's so. This movie is. I mean, I had such few criticisms, but I didn't want to be that fanboy. Like that's a 10 out of 10, and it's still. I mean, again, the fact that I've seen it so many times, I could justify that because it's just that's going to be a new classic for me. And God, I hope it does get a physical release here, but.
It will.
But seeing again the response out of Fantastic Fest and the I guess the verified critics and everything, like they loved it, and just and to us smaller, I guess groups and all that, I know, like I'm ready for the rise of this type of cinema to come back. And
chance, it has legitimate legs, but ultimately it's up to everyone to show up. I know people they've sent me pictures of their tickets that are driving 75 miles to go see it, because it didn't open right by them. And I can't even fathom that type of commitment. You know what I mean? That's some crazy shit as far as I'm concerned.
I would do that. I mean, because if there are just some films that you want to see on screen, and I want to see this on the big screen. I want to hear that with the sound system, but I also want to be there with the audience. I want to hear those reactions because at least I know what's coming, but I can't wait to hear how they react to what's on screen.
This movie's like the cinematic equivalent of a Korn concert. You know what I mean? It's right in your face. And I always say it, and Damien's adopted the term too, because it's so apropos. It's like this movie isn't getting released, it's escaping. Okay. It's escaping into theaters. There's no reason in the world why this fucking movie is getting 850 theaters, that it's mind-boggling to us. Not because we didn't think we made something good. Of course we think we made something good. You don't go into making a movie with the mindset of I'm going to make a shitty movie, but because of the fervor, man, this is one of the few times I've actually seen people writing, you can believe the hype, and holy shit, wow, that's mind-blowing to all of us, because it's true. We did so many fucked up things in that movie that funny. I have a good friend named Sean, and he saw it at Popcorn Frights on I think it premiered there last Friday. And I looked at my girl and I went, well, Sean's either going to be very proud of me or he's going to question everything about me. And this movie has made so many dreams like just come true for all of us and everyone involved. You're catching me at such an emotional time.
This makes me, well, let me put it this way. I love what makes me love a film even more is just hearing the passion behind it. And I remember when, again, the Indiegogo, and it was announced that they were, this was going to happen. And then, of course, unfortunately, the pandemic. But I knew, like, in my heart, I was like, oh, it's still going to happen. I can't wait. And then as we started to get more information come out, like, it only built up my hype. And truthfully, yes, believe the hype. This is something that I would hype up, and it deserves it. There's just nothing right now in terms of horror, grindhouse horror out there, and nothing that's going to like, even the new Hellraiser is, I really enjoyed it, and I'm bummed that it's not getting, like, I'm jealous of the people at Fantastic Fest that they got to see that on the big screen. Like, to me, that's something that should be going, but unfortunately it's not. And so just then I'm seeing, like, but Terrifier too, in my eyes, yes, it should. And I'll go, it is. And it's limited, but like you said, 850, there are other films I won't throw those films under the bus, but that could maybe getting around that, but there's not as much discussion. And these are films earlier in the year, but there wasn't this conversation, this excitement, this, like, the fans are ready for it. And I mean, I've been, myself included, on Twitter just looking, and people are just, they are ready for this film.
I hope so, because you know what? I spent a great deal of time over the last year tweeting, "You're not ready for this." I'm not ready for this.
I mean, you're not, but I mean, we're ready to see art return.
Yes. When people started seeing the movie, they were like, "Oh, that's what he was talking about." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, now it kind of makes sense. I wasn't ready for that, but fuck, am I ready for it now? You know what I mean? There was another rumbling too, if I may. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
And you're catching me at a really, the movie's having its red carpet premiere tomorrow night, so this is it's a really crazy emotional moment for, like, all of us right now. And there's a little bit of a rumbling going on that people are saying, well, because it's in theaters, it's not going to be as violent as it should be, and we should wait to the home video release. And I'm like, guys, you don't understand. We're not fucking around here.
No, you're not. That's what's
oh, there are no fucks given in this movie at all. There's we just have to wait, and for everyone to experience it for themselves. And there's not a single frame that's being altered for this theatrical release. And again, that's a testament to Bloody Disgusting, who never once asked us to edit the movie. Same with Cinedigm, same with Screambox. Never once did the words, "Can you trim this?" ever really come out of their mouths. Because here's the thing with Terrifier. Sorry, I'm rubbing my nose.
Oh, you're fine.
My allergies are all over the place. But with Terrifier, I think its signature is the extreme gore. So if you cut Terrifier in any way, it's no longer Terrifier. It's one in a dozen movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud to say that, being that, if you stripped away all of the hardcore gore, the movie would be about an hour and a half short. No, if all of the hardcore gore, I maintain that there's still a good movie there. That there's a movie there with characters you care about, both love and hate, and love to hate, but still want to have a drink with. The final girl, Lauren Lavera as Sienna, is, this movie, if there's one thing I think we all hope, and we were all praying, is that when people see Sienna, they were going to fall in love with her. If there's any justice in this world, this movie will have her career explode, because Lauren Lavera is absolutely 110% amazing in this.
I want to see her in more horror. I want to see her in an action film. Like,
she's breathtaking.
It was, and she, like, again, she matched Art's just chaotic nature. She was just so intense, and
it never felt forced either. It was just like when she starts whipping his ass,
I loved it.
you can't help but be like, get that motherfucker, right?
Yes.
And that was something David learned when he was the first time he ever started getting his ass really whipped. And he was like, wow, that kind of hurts, you know? And yeah, man, it's just, I hope her career explodes. I hope to God everyone who worked on this movie's career just explodes. And you know what? Again, there are people in this industry who refer to me very I'll take it, but they say, "Oh, the legendary blah blah blah," and I'm like, "I don't know about that." But I have never been happier to ride anyone's coattails like I am the people around Terrifier. I am so happy and privileged to be a part of this crew and this family, and I mean that. You know, they have created this. I've been there helping along wherever I could, but ultimately this is a team creation. It's like everybody involved, from myself to Damien to David to Lauren to Phil Falcone to George Stuber, who I cannot say enough good things about. His work is phenomenal. We all brought something to the table that complemented each other's skill set. And that's a rarity. And there was never ego, you know, there's never, oh, well, I know what I'm talking about and it has to be done this way. None of that, you know, it was just people who love each other collaborating to make the craziest fucking thing that we hope anyone's ever seen. And we hear things like it's the Godfather 2 of slasher movies. Where's Armand? You know, and it's like, wow, thank you. You know, we're at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And that's insanity, you know? And I ain't gonna lie, man, the UK premiere, the world premiere, thankfully it took place while we were still kind of sleeping. So by the time we woke up, it was all over and you can kind of enjoy it. But let me tell you, man, the last couple of premieres, fucking butterflies the size of Mothra in our stomachs. Because you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was like no sleeping, no. I still don't think I've slept more than 4 hours a night for the last 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
It's because there's always something to do. And even when there's not something to do, there's the responsibility, the weight, the gravity we feel to do what we're doing and get it right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want to leave anything on the table. You know, we want to take the table, flip it the fuck over, and have everything land wherever it may. We want this thing to explode, and we want it to explode not just for us, but for the fans, and more importantly, for the horror genre itself. Because if this does good, even moderately good, we have this rare, super fucking rare opportunity to change things and to make getting Hulu's Hellraiser more of a chance of getting into a theater, you know, because it deserves to be in a theater. And all these other movies from these little indie filmmakers out there who put everything they have, their heart, their soul, their money, you know, credit cards up the fucking ass into if we can somehow help open that door and people can make that happen just by showing up, again, what a gift, what an opportunity. You know?
No, you're not kidding, because again, there are so many really incredible independent films that came out this year that did not get to see the big screen unless it was a festival. But even still, they were just so damn good that they should have been. They deserved it. And so, like you said, it would be really great to start seeing, you know, horror be, you know, I mean, I feel like horror is coming back again at the box office in a way that nobody was expecting. So I'm happy. But I really hope to see just more independent films get their due, because it's just as hard, if not harder at times, because limited budget, less time, you know, maybe one take. Like it's just this film. I'm
We will
proud to say I already saw it, but I am so excited to see how it turns out. But I can already tell you, at least just from the folks who have seen it, we're all being like just loud mouthpieces because again, whoever said Godfather, that's not a bad, or Godfather 2, that's, yeah. Like when I saw this, I was just like, you guys, you really outdid yourself. I mean, I was expecting good, but I was like, shit. I was like, hey, you guys didn't hold back. You upped that violence. Like I mean, I knew it was going to be violent, but I didn't know it was going to be that violent. And yeah, and again, as you said, the practical effects are just spectacular.
Thank you.
So
Really, really appreciate that. And again, we hear it, man, and we're humbled by it. And we want this all to work out for everybody, and especially for the horror genre, because to us, that's what's important. This genre has made us, you know, we're the fruits of its fucking loins, you know. And there's so many of us that love this thing, and we always get told how wrong we are for loving it. But you know what's interesting, and I always say this: the horror is one of the only genres of movies that it's based upon an actual human emotion. You can feel horror. You can be horrified. It's a valuable human feeling. I mean, things can be funny.
mm-hmm.
You feel comedy. I mean, things can be dramatic. Of course, you could feel drama, but horror is basically a real feeling that we all have. And I think that's its success. And I think that's also why people look down upon it, because like, oh, why would you want to be horrified, you know? And they don't get it. And I'm like, well, why do you go to amusement parks to ride roller coasters, right? You're
Right.
controlled chaos, that rush, right? So I mean, it's the same thing, but you know, no one's wrong for how they feel. We respect everyone's opinions, and Terrifier is a franchise for everyone, and everyone's on the fucking menu.
That's what I whoever I do have to shout out to, because we've had one of them and we're gonna have the other, but I whoever cut that trailer for Screambox of all the people reacting, I was
George
like, that
Stuber,
is,
George Stuber, our cinematographer.
let me tell you, it made me happy because there are several that, you know, I know and speak to it. I was just like, that is so fucking cool. I was like, holy shit. I mean, and I was like, that's, oh my gosh. But again, it's just a testament because people, like, that trailer came out, and even still, I was just like, ooh, I was like, I'm ready, but I'm not. And then, of course, as it's so hard to explain how much that this film just is a wild ride, and
And it's for
the
everyone.
the fact that it's 2.5, like, you don't let up off anyone's neck the entire movie.
Yeah.
And again,
That's pure Damien, man. Pure Damien.
I would hate to see what that man's nightmares are made of, because my God, like, there are also, I mean, as much as I found myself laughing at all this, but this is true horror. Like, there are some sequences that are just chilling and uncomfortable. So yeah, again, kudos. And I wouldn't say still thank you for taking the time to come on here and speak with me, because love this film and I just love talking about it, and
Again,
just hearing the passion behind it's amazing.
we do not exist without you guys. So being that you guys are so supportive, we listen to everyone. Again, good or bad. You know, there's no such thing as criticism that's bad. You
It's
know,
how we learn too. I mean,
I mean,
nobody's perfect. I mean,
and you know what? This movie isn't perfect, and this movie certainly isn't for everyone. You know,
that's true. I could see some people not a fan.
there are going to be staunch horror fans who see this movie and go, "What a piece of shit," and there are going to be equally as staunch horror fans who look at it and go, "Holy fucking Christ, was that insane?" And nobody's wrong, nobody's right. The beauty of horror is it is so subjective, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have something so subjective in your life that you could either look at and be repulsed by or look at and embrace, that's incredible, good or bad. The worst feeling you for a filmmaker is when their movie comes out and it makes no one feel anything at all, you know, when it's just like, okay, that was there, moving on. That's a bad feeling. But if you can piss people off, if you can make people feel joy, you've done your job, you know. And again, no one's right, no one's wrong, it's all cool with us, man. We're just thankful that anyone cares enough to check out what we're doing, and we mean that. And coming on your show or anyone's show, of course, why wouldn't we, you know? You guys are the reason why we're eating this month. Yeah. Of course.
Well, again, just thank you, and cannot wait to see what's next. I truly can't. I
You have
mean,
no idea.
but we'll leave it at that. And just to everyone else, thanks for listening and watching, and until next time.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And hey, out there, go to the fucking movies.
Yes, do it. Ooh.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.